Vedic philosophy is completely amenable to rational inquiry and empirical confirmations, just the same as science is today. Even more, Vedic philosophy has a material component that overlaps in the subject matter with modern science, besides the spiritual component which transcends matter. So, when I speak about religion and science, I'm actually talking about the continuum from material to spiritual as it exists in Vedic philosophy and as can be rationally and empirically understood. Now that we set aside the issue of science religion conflicts, we can trace the journey from religion to science through multiple steps. I will outline here some about roughly 6 steps. Okay. So to know God, we must know the soul. That's the first step. But to know the soul, we must know transmigration. That's the second step. To know transmigration, we must understand the natural laws of guna and karma. Which is the third step. And to understand guna and karma, you must understand the judgments of good and bad, right and wrong, apart from the judgments of true and false. To make these judgments, we have to first have meanings because judgments can only be applied on the meanings. And to address the issue of meaning, we have to describe matter as meaning. So these steps from matter to God or God to matter are described in Sankhya, which is a school of Vedic philosophy, quite clearly. There are, of course, material objects in Vedic philosophy, but immediately following these objects are qualities or qualia in terms of which we sense. Then there are the senses, then there's the mind, and so on. So above the material elements are the qualities, above the qualities are the senses, above the senses are meanings in the mind, above the mind is the intellect, which performs the judgment of truth. Then there's the ego, which carries out the judgment of good and bad. Then there's a moral sense responsible for the judgment of right and wrong. The soul transcends all these material elements, and God transcends the soul. Therefore, to reach God, we have to pass through all these levels. The problem of understanding soul and God begins in the problem of matter itself, because this matter has to be described in a way compatible with the qualities of perception, such as color, tone, touch, smell, taste, etc. Matter in modern science is described in a way that is devoid of these qualities at present, which creates the problem of perception, namely how the body, which is made up of matter, devoid of such qualities, leads to the perception of qualities. Most cognitive scientists today are studying the bottom of this hierarchy and occurs between the objects and the qualities. This is also sometimes known as the problem of qualia. Cognitive scientists call this the problem of consciousness, but of course, consciousness of the soul is far above this problem. To reach the problem of consciousness, we have to first describe the qualities, then the senses, then the mind, then the intellect, then the ego, and then morality. This is a long journey which is indicated in Sankhya philosophy. Modern science and philosophy are struggling to solve the problem in understanding the very next level of matter called qualia or qualities. So the destination of soul and God is rather distant. The problem of qualia is created in science because science rejected the idea that the world has anything to do with human perception. John Locke, for example, famously drew the distinction between primary and secondary properties, where the primary properties are length, mass, charge, energy, etc. Secondary properties are color, taste, smell, sound, touch, etc. John Locke claimed that material world was primary properties and human perception was secondary qualities. Once the divide between these two was framed in this way, the chasm could not be crossed in the philosophy of science. To solve the problem of qualia, we have to rethink the primary secondary property divide and define matter in a new way. This description is available in Sankhya philosophy, but it is not the description of modern science. It is rather a type of reality that is consistent with the existence of the qualities of qualia. Before we reach the study of soul and God, we have to study matter in a new way. The study begins in qualities, progresses to the senses, the mind, the intellect, the ego, and morality. I collectively call these problems the problem of meaning because they involve this use of everyday concepts. The study of meaning is actually two things. It's study of the mind and various types of judgments. It is also the study of matter in a way that's compatible with the existence of the mind. Once we have understood how matter is different from the description in modern science, then we can induct the mind, then the intellect, then the ego, then morality, and then the soul. The study of God follows after the study of the soul. So there is a natural progression from the study of pure matter, which presently constitutes science, to the study of God, which constitutes religion. The study passes through the intermediate levels, including a new understanding of matter, then mind, then intellect, then ego, then morality, and then soul.